The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Football fans, the time is now.
Give me a hell yeah!
For the football show you never knew you wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Broken Helmet.
Coming to you live on tape on this Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. It is Rich Eggy hailing from my great room here. Yes, I am firmly planted in my Captain Kirk dad chair. Got the whole family behind me and figured change it up. Last night was in the lab. Tonight, the great room. Chain of scenery, if you will. Another episode of the Broken Helmet coming your way. Get in touch with the show. You can reach us via email at brokenhelmetshow@gmail.com or on YouTube or X at Broken Helmet Pod. So, what do we got going today? Yeah, yesterday was a really long show. Probably too long. Like I said, use the time codes. I put them in there so you can hop around and figure out exactly what you want to listen to. And you don't have to waste the entire hour and 40 minutes listening to me. Although I usually try to keep the podcasts at an hour. Joe Rogan goes 3 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever. I haven't listened to a full Joe Rogan show, and I can't even tell you how long. And he's probably the longest that of all the podcasters that I know that do those long shows. I think Tucker Carlson does super long shows too. On the sports side, everybody is pretty smart about it. They're pretty dedicated. They keep it to an hour, and that's about it. You have some long ones, right? Like Check the Mic. That is kind of Rogan-esque with the 2 hour, but they do it live and they have a lot involved in it. So it's more of like a live show. Nick Costas, his podcast is more of an actual radio broadcast. And I guess the same could be said about a lot of radio broadcasts that then double as a podcast. But anyway, this is not that. And nobody wants to invest that much time listening to me. Last night, I don't know. I just got carried away. So I'll try to keep it to a shorter episode today. Like I said, if you don't want to hear the entire time of the Broken Helmet and me talking, just use time codes. It was a long way to say use the time codes, which I've now said 5 times. Right. So anyway, here we are on Tuesday talking NFL and just some minor tidbits on what happened today. Tidbits. That's a terrible word. But Jamar Chase sent shockwaves throughout the league because he comes down video to support it on his, I think it was his left knee, left or right knee. I think it was the left knee, but buckles as he comes down for a catch, immediately crumples. Everybody's thinking the worst. They're thinking ACL, MCL, and here we are back again to the situation which we had the past couple of days, past couple of weeks, probably, where you see video or you get reports from the on-the-scene stringers or beat reporters as to what happened on the field. That hits X, social, whatever. And then you see an onslaught of internet doctors. When there's video, you get a lot more authoritative takes that come through. When there's not video, you get a lot of padding. Unsure, but this is what I think could be the case, right? So, who is it? Pro Football Doc is the guy's name, Chow, whoever. He's the one that I remember coming out first. And now in the past 2 to 3 years, there's just they've opened the floodgates, and now everybody's an internet doctor. Some are better than others. I mean, who cares, right? You're really just waiting for the team to tell you what happened to the player. So the Chase video comes out, and then all of a sudden, I think the Pro Football Doc account on X came out and said, not sure, hoping for the best, bone bruise and an MCL, but you got to wait to hear that it's not ACL. So within the period of maybe an hour, 2 hours, Jamar Chase went from down in a heap on the turf to holding his knee to unable to get up to on the sidelines to over with the trainers to the local radio broadcast saying it was fine. He could have hopped back in. No big deal. He just twisted a knee, a little bit of a hyperextension, and that was it. So everybody was like, woo! We survived that one, especially people that have already done their drafts, because people that have done their drafts already are just pot committed to the people that they already have, which is why I understand the timing nature of fantasy football drafts, especially at home drafts, where there's only so many days available. And if you have 12 people, 14 if you're in a big league, there are leagues that do like 2 divisions of 12 too. So the more owners that you have in a league, the less dates that become available. Battled it myself trying to get the league that I commish going this year. So I understand getting the drafts in before the season is done. I just think it is the worst possible setup to do your fantasy football draft before the third week. Yes, at the end of the third preseason game and the beginning of the season, could the same stuff happen in practice? For sure. But there's just infinitely less risk once you clear that final week and the third preseason game, and then you approach regular season. Now, people can get it week 1 and week 2. Again, you cannot prevent injuries. Go to last night's edition of the Broken Helmet, and it was in my fantasy football tidbit saying that you can't really avoid injuries or prevent injuries, but you can take note of age, right? So the Jamar Chase was one of the injuries that happened. Kenneth Walker, who I also mentioned, Kenneth Walker, K9, he was going to be the guy that magically transformed the Kansas City offense as he entered the Chiefs lineup. Because why? Because he never got hurt in Seattle? He was hurt all the time. All the time. But everybody just pinned this cape to him as he flew in to Kansas City that he was going to rescue this offense for some reason. That's not what's going to do it. What's going to do it for Kansas City is blatantly going to be Patrick Mahomes coming back to form, returning from his knee surgery, getting an offensive line that's back to top tier. The running back obviously helps, but it's going to be the line, Mahomes, and then having a functional wide receiver room, plus Kelsey, other tight ends, and getting back to that offense that you're used to with the Chiefs. You're not going back to 6-7 years ago when they're throwing up monster points, but you're looking for that efficient, methodical offense from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs. That's what's going to do it. Not K9. Not K9. And he's not going to do it now because now he's got a foot injury. What the foot injury is, we don't know. They haven't said. It could be minor and he could be out like a week or two, and then we won't even really think about it, and it just won't be a big deal. But obviously, right now, yet another injury, right? And now the Ashton Genty, not Alshon Jeffrey. Again, check last night's episode. You'll get that one. But Genty's ankle injury, as somebody wrote on Twitter, and I thought it was a good line, was that the Ashton Genty ankle injury keeps getting lower and lower on the ankle until it's not going to even exist. So it was a high ankle sprain. Now I think it's a low ankle sprain. And that one is what are you going to do with that? People have probably in the past couple of days gassed on Mike Washington. Mike Washington is still going to hover in those higher rounds now because if you own Genty, you're not quite sure, and that makes his handcuff value that much more. We talked about handcuffs last night. Washington is going to be one of the primary ones, at least until you can figure out what happens with Genty. In all likelihood, Washington might get some work, and the people that own Genty will get Washington to try to lock him up, unless one other owner comes in and drafts Washington without owning Genti and drafts him early, that'll screw up the Genti owner's strategy, right? But then they're just going to sit on Washington hoping for a Genti injury. And if that's the case, you'll see the Washington owners possibly cut him as the year goes on, especially if Genti blows up to an extent and he's getting all the touches, and then Washington's getting what, like 5 to 8 points a game. No owner is going to sit on a 5 to 8 point running back all year long, especially if Genti's just owning shop, right? And it's just getting all of the touches. It's just not going to happen. They're going to cut him. So that's the risk you run with that specific handcuff. But the Genti injury has gotten infinitely less as time has gone on. And before I jump into what we'll do today, we're not going to do downs. I'll keep it shorter. I figure what we'll do is mock drafts. We were talking here a little bit about the handcuffs and Mike Washington and Ashton Genti. Yesterday, I picked position 6 in the mock draft that I did. I figured maybe the best thing to do today, if we could fit it in, is do a round first pick and the 12th pick in fantasy drafts and see the difference between those two. Because I think there's very stark differences in what's available for you as you go through one of these drafts. Now, most people that are passionate or involved in fantasy football have probably done this themselves. Okay. Enjoy mine. Maybe I throw out something that's interesting, or maybe I just bore you to tears and I lull you to sleep. It works either way. There's some value in that, right? Maybe I'm just the white noise ocean sounds that you need, the velvety tunes of Rich to put you to sleep. But before we do that, there was one funny thing that came out today, and I had posted about this. Oh, that's great, Rich. Pull up the screen share when there's nothing available. That's fantastic. That's what everybody wants to see. That's why we do the video podcast here. But here we go. Is the NFL Christmas Day game day on Netflix. So Netflix releases their ad here today. And the big thing that they're pumping here was the old school Bills red helmets, right? And I guess this is the color rush uniforms. It looks like, white on white, or maybe that's gray on gray with the red helmets. But the red helmets, right? Big red helmet advertisement here. And I looked at it and I said, I used to work way back in the day when I first got out of college. I really want to work in sports marketing. And so I took a program at NYU. Back in the day, they had this really cool sports marketing program that you could take over the summer. And they had some like big name guys. And Steiner from Steiner Sports came in, because at that point, I'm old. It was a long time ago. He was just starting out, and he was talking about, the rise of collectibles. Now, anybody that knows Steiner, and if it wasn't Steiner himself, because again, it was a really long time ago, it was somebody very high up in the company, because the company was super small at that time. So I got involved with that class. There was somebody from the WWE came in, another high-end marketing guy, back when WWE hadn't even gone public yet. So it was still a privately owned company. He was telling stories about Steve Austin and how I think they used to call him the $6 million man, or he was Steve Austin, and then Steve Austin was the $6 million, but they used to call him something because that's what he made per quarter, in whatever sales of his clothing, right? His merchandise sales. Jesus, Rich, I don't have my car crash or any of my sound bites here, but I would play that over and over again, followed by the Falcon breaking down, and then a toilet, and then maybe even the Ron Burgundy, you are a stupid asshole, followed by Jim Ross saying, that's exactly what he is. That was terrible. So merchandise sales is what I'm talking about. But the WWE guy was referring to Austin because back then, which was, again, decades ago, he was making whatever it was a quarter, right? Just an insane amount of money. So from NYU, landed at NFL Properties, had an internship there, working in their marketing department, which was properties at the time. It was in marketing. And I remember the coolest thing about that job, outside of the fact that the guy that I worked under, Ty Stewart, who I don't know if he's still there, but he was at one point, I think, the president of marketing or the president of big name guy for the World Series of Poker. He was my boss. We used to play NFL Blitz in the back. We used to do all this cool shit with they used to have just a glom closet, and they used to have cards, just packs and packs of cards. And they had this, if you've ever played the game where you get a pack, you rip it, and whoever gets the best card takes all the cards. We used to do that every here and there in the glom closet. It was cool. But one of the funnier stories out of that was, all of a sudden everybody's quiet on the floor. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why the hell is everybody so quiet? Right. And Ty's like, yeah, well, look who it is over there. I'm like, I have no clue who it is over there. And he was like, that's Roger Goodell. And I was like, yeah, so it's Roger Goodell. Who the hell is Roger Goodell? And he was like, he's going to be the next commissioner of the NFL. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a pretty big name right there. And he was like, yeah, that's why everybody's like fixated on the corner. And he was replacing Tagliabue, which he did. And super cool internship. I kind of blew it there. I was hoping that would turn into a position. It didn't. But I then went to the XFL and had a great year at the XFL at the New York, New Jersey Hitmen. That was good startup. Made a lot of good friends, had a blast. So we were doing not only office work, I was in the marketing department, but all of our departments were layered on top of each other. So marketing was right next to ticket sales, which was right next to accounting, which was right next to GM. Drew Pearson was right down the hallway from us. And we all just kind of hung out. It was like a family. It was a really awesome experience. And one now, all these years later, I still miss. But I talked to a couple of people, and I'm friendly with one individual, McShane. If you're watching this, what's up, Shady? Out of the ticket department, and I try to keep in touch with Facebook or whatever with a bunch of the other people. But so we used to do game day operations. So on top of doing all of our office duties and whatever our functions were for the company, we used to go on game days and actually work as people in the stadium doing significant stuff. So we have, I think it's the first home game, and they put me in charge of like letting the players out onto the field. When we had pyrotechnics, and then they would cue the cameras, and the camera crew would send it down to the field, and then we were supposed to send them in. And we didn't rehearse this. We didn't really plan well for it. So I'm just sitting there, and we're all in the tunnel, and we're waiting for this. And all of a sudden they're like, all right, get the players ready. I'm like, all right, everybody ready up. And then boom, all of the pyro goes off, and the pyro is directly above our heads. We had no clue. And when I tell you that it went from pretty frigid to about 1,000 degrees in like 2 seconds, it was ridiculous. And we were surrounded by the East Rutherford Fire Department. I think it was the East Rutherford Fire Department, but whatever, the fire marshal that was there. And so all the players just jumped. We all jumped. All of a sudden on the headphones, they're like, send the players out, send the players out. So I'm not waving them in. And the fire marshal lost his shit. And he was like, what the fuck was that? We're writing you out. This is insane. How did you have? And I'm like, let me get somebody that could help you. I am just part of the field crew here. I am not the right contact person. I'm in the marketing department. I didn't say that because you're like, oh shit. And then I just peeled out because I dipped. I was like, let me find somebody. Whoop! Out the door we go, because the last thing you want to do is be in that position. I didn't want to lose my job, right? And That was the last thing I wanted to do. And I think at that time I was a paid intern and I was trying to get the full-time position, which I got at the end of the internship because the director of marketing, Jason Danahy, who I think he was the director of marketing. He wasn't director, then he was a marketing manager, whatever it was. Jason Danahy, he had left and then he went to the New York Post. Jason Danahy now is at DraftKings. And so I think he is, I got to look up on LinkedIn, but I think he's the director of revenue. I think something in the ad department, but big time in at DraftKings. And he left, and then I got a full-time position working with the chief marketing officer, director of marketing, this guy by the name of Rich Oriolo. And so I was stoked because it was my job. And then all of a sudden, literally 2 weeks later, it just closed up shop. You're all fired. We started hearing Mike Francesa talking about it on Mike and the Mad Dog. He's like, dog, what I'm hearing, the XFL, it's going away. I'm telling you, they're folding up shop. And so we go, what are we talking about? Are we losing our jobs? And WWE is like, no, you're not losing your jobs. I think they were WWF at the time, but they were going through the lawsuit with the World Wildlife Federation, which I eventually lost. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. You guys are not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out. And literally 2 weeks later, they were just like, yeah, everybody into the conference room. There is a conference call in about 15 minutes. And then they're like, you guys are all done, but don't worry about it. You don't have to get out today. You can get out by the end of the week. So, all right, great. So that was my boring entry into marketing to bring up this ad, which I've left up the whole time. But anyway, Christmas game day, you get the red helmets and Josh Allen on the field. And I'm looking at this and I'm just kind of like, what is it? What are we doing here? Like I get it, right? So it's at Mile High. They make it seem like it's at Buffalo. It's not. This game is being played at Mile High. So it's an away game at Mile High Stadium. They're playing in a field that the ground crew has done a good job because it's snowing, obviously, and they've blown off the yard markers, but they forgot about the Christmas tree. There's a fucking pine tree. Is that a fir? Is that a nice fir right there? I forget all the different Christmas trees, but there's one right there. I mean, Josh Allen's going to run into the tree. He's going to run into the tree. There's no. I mean, I don't think there's any fans, but they're also in a canyon. I hope there's not a avalanche because snow is going to come right into the goddamn stadium. But I'm more worried about Lawrence Treeler right there. That was my post on X, which I really wanted to plug here because I thought it was a great line. I'm terrible. I think I'm comedic and I'm awful. Just a bag of shit. But I thought Lawrence Treeler was a funny little line there. And so I don't know about the success of this team. And give me some lights. That's my other complaint. It's Christmas. You say it's Christmas. I'm looking at it. It says right there, Christmas game day. Christmas game day. So it's Christmas. You got candy canes in the bottom, and you're going to put a Christmas tree in the middle of the stadium on the gridiron. Put some lights on it. Decorate it. Right? Wouldn't you like to see some Christmas lights there with a nice star at top of it? So at least if Josh Allen's going to run into it, it'll have some kind of National Lampoon's not European, but Christmas Vacation laugh at the end. Maybe have a squirrel jump out at the last minute. But this was the one of the big social media plays today. It was the red helmets and this ad. So, I mean, just not what I was envisioning when I heard about this big ad coming out. There it was. So I said that I was going to make this quick, and here we are 25 minutes into the podcast, and I haven't made it quick at all. So again, use the time codes, and here we go. We'll just go to the mock drafts. So what we will do is we'll change over to, we'll use it again, the Fantasy Pros here, the Draft Wizard. And what I did was I gave myself for this draft, which I've already kicked off, is I gave myself the number 1 pick. So we'll do the 12th pick after this, but I gave myself the number 1 pick here. And I don't know how you pick anybody but Jahmyr Gibbs here. I guess maybe Bijan Robinson. Uh, Ashton Genty thing was already played out. Jamar Chase, does the knee thing scare me? No. But again, I think I'm going to get a better wide receiver when it comes around on the 2-3 turn than I will a running back. So let's get Gibbs here and let's get out of the way. So pick Gibbs. Everything rips through. And if you want to take a look at what happens, again, Fantasy Pros has been okay. Here you see they go Robinson, Chase, Nakua. Then they do McCaffrey, Taylor, and then Jackson Smith and Jimmy JSN. I mean, maybe fine. You see running backs go, you see wide receivers go, you see Brock Bowers, as in this league, the way that I have it rigged, is the wide receivers and tight ends are one position. There are two running backs, two of the wide receivers / tight ends, and then one flex, which would be any one of those three. And then you see the first quarterback taken, Josh Allen, right before our pick. So where does that leave us? Jahmyr Gibbs as our running back, and then we are looking at quarterback as Lamar Jackson, Kenneth Walker, K9, who was injured, so we're not touching him, as the next highest ranked running back. After him, Breece Hall, Jeremiah Love, Javonte Williams. Then you go over to wide receiver, and you have Nico Collins, Chris Olave, George Pickens, and Trey McBride. I'm thinking you got Nico Collins is going to have to be at least one pick, and we'll get him out of the way there. Why? Because as you can see here on the first slot, so .01 on the 2-3 turn, you have lost out on a significant amount of talent. It's gotten washed away, and this is one of the things that you'll see with the 1 and 12 positions. So I've got a running back, and now I've got a wide receiver. Obviously, like the running back more than the wide receiver, but had we taken, let's say, a Jamar Chase there in that one spot, we get back here, we're looking at K9, Breece Hall, Jeremiah Love, Javonte Williams. I mean, woof, not what you want to deal with. So where do we go with the next pick? Wide receiver again. Olave, Pickens, McBride, Devontae Smith, Malik Neighbors. Neighbors is really going to screw up a lot of drafts because nobody really knows what to expect out of him. I'm just staring at him right now, and I said, man, I would really love to throw Neighbors on this squad. I just think that the risk factor is too much. So Jordan Tyson's out. Olave had a good year. Year 2 of Kellen Moore and Shuck. So let's do Olave. Let's take Olave with the third pick, which is the 2-3 turn. And we will see what happens after we picked Olave. Walker, so there goes running back, McBride, Flowers, Pickens, there's goes. I mean, look at all this talent. That's just, there goes Neighbors. He ends up going in the 7 slot of the 3rd round. And it just flies off. And this now is really no man's land. This 3rd, 4th round here, I'm not picking any of these guys with any kind of enthusiasm. You know, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Smith, everything's kind of even. I'm just saying the first couple of rounds, you got to make them count, regardless of where the position is. So now we've got the running back, 2 wide receivers, and we're on the 4-5 turn. We'll take a look at what's left now. Joe Burrow's there. That's crazy. I don't think Joe Burrow would really be there at this point. So I'm going to pretend that he's not. Justin Herbert is there. Lad McConkey, Jalen Waddle. I could go Jalen Waddle as a flex. I still need a running back. DeAndre Swift is there. Jeff Ratcliffe, who I listen to on Sirius XM radio, and I do follow his X feed. I think he is a pretty solid analyst. And he wrote an article today that said DeAndre Swift was one of the people he was looking to avoid. And I just, I don't know. I wouldn't say avoid him. I understand that Monangai was taking touches from him, but I still think he has value. Montgomery, I'm not into. Basil, Tootin. So Swift or Tootin. I'm not touching Scottaboo. I'm not touching Montgomery. Trayvon Henderson also is. Let's do Waddle. I'm going to do Waddle because I think Waddle is going to go there for my. He's going to go there for my flex. And then I guess I'm going to go DeAndre Swift because I want to at least get some kind of running back talent that I am comfortable enough with. So there you go on 4-5. And here we got it back to 6-7. And let's see some of the people that we passed up. We picked Waddle over Luther Burden. We picked Swift over Montgomery, Scottaboo, Trayvon Henderson. I guess that would have been the one I kind of think about. I like Henderson, and I like his top-end talent more so than Swift. The question I have for Henderson is, what is that split backfield going to be? I think toward the end of the year, Henderson takes over the majority of that position. I don't know. There was just something about Henderson. I really like Henderson more than Swift. Maybe I should have went that route. I just, with injury and year 2 of Ben Johnson in Chicago, I kind of like Swift just a little bit more, although he's older. Kind of like Henderson. I'm kind of beating myself up now about that pick. But too late now. We are already past that point. So quarterback's gone here. And you can see the running backs at Warren, Tony Pollard, don't want any of them. Stevenson, I don't want him. I'll take Henderson, but not Stevenson. J.K. Dobbins, and then Adunze goes before we get our shot. So here we go with our next 2 picks. Herbert still there. Then it goes into Purdy, Bo Nix, Mahomes, Stafford. Looking at the running backs that are left, Jonathan Brooks has a little bit of appeal here, especially since Hubbard is hurt. In terms of wide receivers, we have 3. We only need 2, and the other one is going to be one of our flex positions. Christian Watson has appeal here because he is a 1, and if he ever stays healthy, then he might be a great play. So I think Watson is definitely one of the picks, so let's take him off the board. And then do we go quarterback and take Herbert? Or do we take Jonathan Brooks and take Mahomes, Stafford, or Goff at the end and maybe make 2 quarterbacks back-to-back and just pad our quarterback room? Is there anybody else here that I would like? The one thing you got to look for, Monangai's there. I could get him as a backup. Do you want Brooks or Monangai? And some of these things are all wacky because one of the players that keeps falling is Najee Harris. I don't even know where he is, but they haven't moved him up in the thing. And Najee Harris probably could be the number 2 back in New York. So it's one of the discrepancies you have to be aware of when you're using whatever platform you might be using, that they might use. They might not have adjusted their drafts. So I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Brooks here. I'm going to go Brooks, and we'll see what plays out on the other side. So as they rip through, there goes Monangai. He is gone. Herbert probably. Oh, Herbert's still there. So after we picked Brooks, Loveland, there goes Aaron Jones, Gainwell, Hubbard, Dowell. And then we go with Bob. We got Rashad White, RJ Harvey, Monangai, Jordan Mason, and Blake Corum, and then a whole smattering of wide receivers who I'm not overtly concerned with now that I have Watson, Waddle, Olave, and Nico Collins. So here, we've built our roster pretty solidly where we can take kind of whatever we want. Is there anything that helps us in terms of handcuffs with our running backs? Probably not, because neither of those guys. Monangai was the handcuff, and he is not there. But I am okay with the Jonathan Brooks selection. So now I think we're going to go quarterback. Let's take Herbert off the board. And do we do double quarterbacks just to eliminate the quarterback position? I do have Waddle. I could take Bo Nix and then build a stack. I could take Mahomes and sit on him until the offense picks up toward the end of the year. Goff and Stafford also solid. If I did anything, maybe Bo Nix. I can't bring myself to select Bo Nix, even though it would build a stack, because I'm just not a big believer in him. So let's go back to the wide receivers and see what's left there. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Quentin Johnson, Alex Pierce, Jane Reed, Jordan Addison. Tyson got selected. That is a shame. What about, is Stribling there? Do we do Stribling? I think I like Stribling over the rest of these. Josh Downs, maybe. Jaden Reed in Green Bay, but I already have kind of Lemon, the rookie, but got injury problems. I would have liked to have done Jordan Tyson. Let's do Stribling. Why not? It might be aggressive, but there we go with one. Do we get one of two? Nope, we picked them both, Herbert and then Stribling. And so now we come back here. Who do we miss out on? Tyler Warren was available. Coker I like. There goes Downs. None of these running backs I have any interest in. There goes Mahomes and Purdy. So Pittman goes. Jordan Addison. We really missed out on too many people. Jonah Coleman. He might have been a nice rookie running back pickup. So now let's go back to the cheat sheets. Running backs, is there anything? Kamara, he's injured and old. Pacheco, he could be the backup, but he's injured. Should play in week 1. Braylon Allen. So here is a situation referring back to yesterday, talking about handcuffs, where you could do Pacheco, and then you have the Detroit backfield locked up, Gibbs and then Pacheco. Do you have any real high ceiling expectations for Pacheco? I would argue no. I would argue I would rather have Braylon Allen, because I think Braylon Allen, given the opportunity, has a higher ceiling than Pacheco. So I'm giving up Pacheco and the Detroit backfield. However, I do get higher potential with Braylon Allen in the running back position. And there Mike Washington is. Mike Washington is going to be gone. I'm not touching him because he's not going to be available here. Marshawn Lloyd, no. I definitely think that's the pick right here. So let's go Braylon Allen for 1. And then going back with the 2 wide receivers and the ones that I picked already, there's quite a bit of padding that I have. Let's just make sure I'm not missing anybody. No, we're really into the scrap heap here. So highest you're getting is Jaden Reed, Mekhi Lemon. I think I'm looking at quarterbacks now. Now, Bo Nix is still available. Stafford, Goff, Tyler Shuck. I might like him later. Jordan Love. Do you do 3 quarterbacks? On the tight end, which I don't really look at, but you do have Kyle Pitts, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Kittle, Bo Nix, Stafford. Let's not tear up too much time here. I forget how did Pitts end the season last year? He had some bigger games there. Maybe I'll take Kyle Pitts. Why not? So we'll take Kyle Pitts and we'll do quarterback on the way back. Now in this draft, there are going to be 3 rounds left. We're on 2 here. So usually I take the second pick. I end up taking a kicker, but I'm not going to do that here. So Love goes, Goff. Do I want Goff for sure? Let's do. And Goff's not bad. Kyler Murray's still sitting out there. Tyler had a great end of the year. And toward the end of this upcoming season, he might be really solid. Kyler Murray has probably the best of all the wideouts. Goff has the best system and comfortability. But Chuck was lighting him up last year. Let's do that. All right, let's get Saints, and we'll try to stack Olave for the second half of the year if he ends up playing. And that will leave one more pick. And what are we going to do here? This is usually where I pick a kicker, but we'll just wait and we'll do a kicker down the line. I did Pitts. Likely was available. I probably would like to get that back. There is no real running backs left here to pull. So I think I'm just going to end up doing Isaiah Likely as another wide receiver potential flex. And that leaves the final pick. And the final pick here is probably going to, for me, it's going to be another quarterback, depending on what's available. And there is really, Sam Darnold's available. So do I just load it up? There's really nothing left here, right? Let's see if there's any running backs. Do I want to take Black from San Francisco? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll take Black. Yeah, I like that. Let's do that. I'll do Black. Oh, I didn't do a kicker. Anyway, I get an A+ for my lineup here. So I think, I don't know how that last pick would have impacted if I took a kicker, but let's look at the team real quick. We have Herbert at quarterback, Gibbs and Swift at running back, Collins, Olave, and Waddle as my 2 wide receivers / tight ends, and then the flex. On the bench, I have Watson, Jonathan Brooks, Stribling, Braylon Allen, Kyle Pitts Sr., Tyler, my man, Isaiah Likely, and then Kalen Black, but Black would have been a kicker. So not terrible in any way, shape, or form. How did everybody else do? We'll take a quick look at the teams by the rosters. I always like to look at it by running backs first to see who got something that was entertaining. Bijan Robinson and Kenneth Walker is a nice combo. What they get at wide receiver was Burden and Odunze. I hate that build. Montgomery Dobbins, I don't like. Stevenson, Scottaboo, I hate. McCaffrey and Barkley, old but high ceiling. What did they get at wide receiver? Pickens and Mbuka plus ATN. So I don't like that build. Taylor and Williams at running back. Okay. All right. Garrett Wilson at wide receiver with Devontae Adams and then Jeremiah Love. I'm not a super big fan of that. I think I did great here, comparatively speaking. Henderson here goes on this one team, but he's paired with Pollard. So then you got Cook and Henry. Cook and Henry's a nice combo, and they are paired with McMillan and Ladd McConkey at wide receiver. Tootin and Warren, I don't care about. Achan and Hampton, okay, and that's paired with Jameson Williams and Mike Evans. Evans falls off there. Then you got Breece Hall, Jadarian Price. Possible if Hall comes back healthy, that would be a nice combination. That's paired with Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb with T. Higgins. So that is kind of a build that I like. Burrow, Breece Hall, Jadarian Price, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins. Coming off the bench, you got Bob, Rashad White, Chris just junk. But if Hall comes back and is healthy and Price locks up that running back position for Seattle, you have a strong team there. And that team is actually spot 11. And then spot 12, where we're going next, they took Genty and Chase Brown. I like those two. And then they have DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, and Judkins as the flex. Wan'Dale Robinson, Brian Thomas on the bench, Pittman on the bench. That's okay. But all of those, I am more than happy with our team. And so as you can see there, the differentiation between first and 12th, now we'll actually get to see it step by step. But on the front end of the draft, I think if you're the number one pick, I think it's Gibbs. If you want to go Robinson, that's fine. But I don't think you can go wide receiver because when you come back, I think the fall off is too much for the running back position while you can still work with the wide receivers that are out there. So let's go back and restart the draft. We'll go back to the draft settings real quick. We'll take the draft position and move it from 1 until 12. And then we will go in and start the war. And this mock draft brought to you by Novig. Yes, that's right. Like we said yesterday, the mock drafts are now being sponsored. So going back to the marketing conversation, right? Market, sell everything, just like the WWE. So I'm going to digress. Hot second, and it just be quick. But so when I was in that New York NYU marketing course, there was an old school tape that they used to show to everybody. And I think it was pretty universally used piece of film or whatever. It was universally used advertisement where they said, this is the future of sports marketing. And what followed was a Olympic relay race. And in the relay race, every single thing was sponsored. The starting gun brought to you by Milky Way candy bars, right? And then it was the starting blocks brought to you by Adidas. On and on it went. The first handoff was brought to you by something. The first corner marker was brought to you by something. It just went on it. And it was comical, right? But the point is that sports is a valuable space. Everybody wants in. Advertisement eyeballs is worth all of these companies' advertising dollars because of the passionate sports fan. And you want to get creative with it. There's a lot of opportunity. It's why I really liked sports marketing when I began my career. Couldn't make a career in it, unfortunately, but it was very entertaining, and I very much did like it. Here we are now in 2026, and every fucking thing is sponsored. Everything is sponsored. And WWE is a perfect example of this because the turnbuckles are advertised. Every different corner of the ring is advertised. The center of the ring is advertised. Slim Jim is on the tables that get cracked through. Then you go outside and all around the ring, what used to be a metal fence to separate the fans from the wrestlers, that whole protection wall is now just a digital advertising board. It's over the top, and every time I see it, I think about that silly VHS ad that I saw all those years back, where it was like looking into a crystal ball because it couldn't have been more accurate. And now you're having fantasy football drafts brought to you by Prediction Markets and Novig. So away we go here in the final draft, and I'll try to bring this with a little bit more speed than the first draft. Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, everything they think of the front end. Now, On the back 9, if you will, in spot 12 here, I said that if you were going to do running back, this might be the spot. I don't think I would do wide receiver, but because let's see what's available, right? Remember, in 12, whatever you get on 3-4 is going to be a big drop off. So you're looking to capitalize on these 2 picks right here. I see Chase Brown immediately, and I like the way that looks. Drake London I don't like because of the quarterback situation in Atlanta. A.J. Brown I like, but he's old. I have question marks about that. And then Nico Collins I'm not considering here. So let's just go Chase Brown. That's an instant pick. Do I want Achane? Do I want Barkley? Do I want Hampton? These guys are all going to be gone. Do I want A.J. Brown? Do I want Drake London? Those guys, that quality is going to be gone. I think I'm going to have to go running back here because while I would like to split it and keep it even, I think when I get back down, we're going to be into this like Josh Jacobs and Travis Etienne. And meanwhile, I think I can get with the wide receivers, maybe in the Zay Flowers, Garrett Wilson, McMillan range. And I'm okay with that. So I don't like Achane because I don't like Miami's offense. I like him. I just don't like the offense. I do like Barkley. I mean, he is old. That's the problem there. He is 29, and I really hate that in running back. Hampton, I really liked. However, now they lost their center. A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley. Both guys are battling age. Let's go Saquon. I don't know if that's a great pick, but let's see what has happened after we picked him. So Saquon goes, then London, Achane, Collins, Hampton, Genty. Oh, Genty was still sitting out there? I probably would have picked Genty. I can't believe I missed him. Did they move him down in the cheat sheets? Is that why I missed him? They must have moved him down. Oh, yeah, they moved him all the way down in 11 because of the injury, because he was way up there. So with the fact that they're kind of laughing off that injury, I probably would have taken Achane, but that's fine. So here we come back here. Let's look at what we have available. In terms of running back, we could look to pad the depth that we have there, or put one of these guys at flex. So we could look at Josh Jacobs, Etienne. We go over to wide receivers. We're looking at Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson, McMillan. All right, so we could pick up Lamar Jackson here. And do we want to do a stack? Do we want to do Flowers, Jackson? Or do we want to do Wilson, Flowers? We want to do Wilson, Flowers, and give up Jackson, because I'm still comfortable with these quarterbacks in the middle here. I don't need Jackson. So why don't we go Wilson and Flowers? And so now what we've done for our team here is we have gotten Brown, Barkley, Wilson, and Flowers. In the 12th spot, I'm happy with that. It'll be interesting to see at the end of the draft what we look like against some of the other teams. So after we pick Flowers, Jacobs goes, McMillan, Lamar Jackson. There you go. And then it goes into the mush where you get all of these middling talents. You do see Caleb Wilson go, Burrow, Daniels. And then the 3 picks before us were DeAndre Swift into Odunze into Mike Evans. None of those guys I would have wanted. I don't need Swift necessarily because I have 2, maybe him. But what's on the board? We have, in terms of a running back now, we have Scadabo, Montgomery, Bajal Tootin, Jadarian Price. Oh, man. Tootin and Price. I think that's where I'm looking. And then from the wide receivers, we are looking at, what do we got? Christian Watson. Oh, so Watson's available here again. Harrison Jr., Jalen Hurts. So I could get Hurts, and I could get myself that quarterback position. If Hurts is rough this year, I will have wasted some depth plus the flex. I think I'm going to do Watson, and I'm going to go Tootin. So, oh no, Tootin or Price. I think I like Price. I think I like Jadarian Price here. Let's go Jadarian Price. So now I've given myself some depth at both running back and wide receiver, and then I have one of those guys in the flex position. So now the draft board has gone up and down. We have seen four more quarterbacks go off the board. Hurts, Prescott, Lawrence, and Herbert. And we have also seen a lot of running backs fly off. So the fact that we got 3 running backs for 2 needed spots is working to our benefit right now. So we can kind of do anything now. This is where you kind of have to evaluate what's available and what pads the roster best. We still have a quarterback, but I don't know if I care anymore. DK Metcalf. Man, DK Metcalf. RJ Harvey. Diggs. I think if we were to be honest with ourselves, I don't even. Oh, Jackson Dart. People have jumped on him a bunch. I don't want a quarterback. Of all of these running backs that are left, I think I'm going to end up doing. Yeah, let's split it. Let's take Harvey. Am I overlooking somebody? I am not. So let's take Harvey. We'll take Harvey in one spot, and then we will take DK Metcalf in the other and see if DK's got anything left in the tank. All right. So now what we are hoping to see is some quarterbacks stay available, which they are. Go back to the draft board real quick. Who did we miss out that maybe we should have seen? I don't really see anybody there. Your expected running backs and wide receivers. Stafford off the board. Tyler Warren slipped. There goes Charbonnet. Maybe we could have done Charbonnet instead of Harvey and then just locked up the Seattle backfield, but I just have not been a Charbonnet fan. I don't like his performance. So let's see what they have. Probably quarterback here. Do we do 2 quarterbacks? Do we also look for Stribling? Sometimes Stribling falls to us around this area because I think he's gotten ranked too low. Stribling is probably going above all of these people. Jordan Tyson is obviously went. Man, maybe I'll grab Stribling. Or do we just do 2 quarterbacks? Kamara, Jonah Coleman. Oh, let's do. Maybe we'll do Jonah Coleman and lock up that. How many? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers, and we've got 4 running backs. So we'll end up doing Coleman over Braylon Allen. Yeah, we'll do Coleman. And there we've got a backfield. And then do we want to take one of these quarterbacks here, or do we want to go Stribling? I think we'll go Stribling, and then we'll go quarterback on the next round. So I like him here. Stribling it is. Again, I don't know if this is fair because I think Stribling is going to move up on draft boards and he's not going to be available. So now we've got quarterbacks. What are we left with? Bo Nix, Jackson Dart, Jared Goff. I haven't got a whole lot of Jackson Dart, so let's take Jackson Dart. And then we've got Goff or Nix. Which one do I want? Again, I have too much question about Nix. I think Goff is in a better position. So let's take Goff. Man, watch Bo Nix have another okay season. So now we are left with how many rounds? Oh, we've got 2. So we need to take one player and a kicker. So we'll just do the kicker, Auburn. So we've got Aubrey on our team now. And now we got to fill in this last spot. We could do whatever we want with this. If there's any position that I feel most uncomfortable with, it's probably quarterback. There is nothing I think that would benefit me more than taking another quarterback here. And I mean, Jordan Love's on the board, and I have Watson. Well, let's take that. Boom. And there we go. So here, where the number 1 pick, we ended up getting an A+. Here we get a B. And this is our starting lineup. Jackson Dart at quarterback, running backs of Chase Brown and Saquon Barkley, wide receivers of Garrett Wilson and Zay Flowers, and then we have a flex position that could be either Christian Watson or Jadarian Price, the way that I picked it up. So whoever isn't in is going to be the first off the bench, and then you have R.J. Harvey, DK Metcalf, Jonah Coleman. So you have Harvey and Coleman, so you have 2 pieces of that Denver backfield. So here, kind of working with a weird makeshift handcuff situation, although I don't have Dobbins. Then we got Stribling and then Goff and Love. So if Dart doesn't work out, you have a slow and steady Goff, and then you kind of have a wild card in Love, who hasn't been performing well fantasy as of late, but you never know. This might be a different year. And that's it. I'm happy with that team, actually. But you can see the difference between 1 and 2 now that we've done both of them. On the front end, where I was very much you have to take a running back, and then you can decide on what you want to do on the next round because you get 2 picks. I most likely will never do a wide receiver with pick number 1. On the back end, I think you almost have to do at least 1 running back, and if not 1, 2 running backs, because you're not going to see much coming back. Had we not done Barkley, and let's say we did, I probably would have done Nico Collins over Jake. A.J. Brown is who I was going to do. So let's say I did Chase Brown and A.J. Brown, Brown brothers. When I come back here in the 3rd round, I would be looking at Jacobs, Etienne, Junkins as my other running back. I hate that. Not a fan of that at all. While I like Wilson and Flowers, and I have infinitely more confidence in them. And I think that is the big question that you have when you're dealing with the 12th pick, is that if you don't go running back, which I hate by my own admission, is that you are throwing the dice with having really mediocre RB2s, where I think while your wide receiver 1 might not be great in the 12th spot, if you go RB, I think you're probably pretty happy with the even split you could get with wide receivers from whatever's there. So real quick, rosters by position, comparatively speaking. Again, we'll look at the running backs. Gibbs and Henry go to the number 1 position. Their wide receivers end up being McLaurin, Adams, and then Cardinal Tate. I mean, super old, super young. Don't like it. Bijan and Kenneth Walker. Okay, what do you got at wide receiver? Rashee Rice and Jalen Waddle with Luther Burden. That team is actually not bad. Robinson, Walker, Rice, Waddle, and Burden with Justin Herbert at quarterback. It's a pretty solid team. Do they have anything on the bench? Hubbard, Wilson, Rodriguez, Robinson, not really. So, they did get Jordan Tyson. So, number 2 is a solid team. Next, Junkins, Irvin. I don't care. Love, Travion Henderson. There you go. You got young, youth, high ceiling running backs. You have to get through the beginning of the year, obviously. But what do you got at wideout? Trey McBride, Puka Nacua, and then you have Chris Godwin. If you don't put in Godwin, you got Rashid Rice, Wendell Robinson. You don't have a whole lot. So there's a team that I do like. I think the fall off is that your flex is pretty weak. But week 4 on, Love, Henderson, Nacua, McBride is pretty good. Caleb Wilson under center. Etienne, Warren, I don't care about. Hall and Montgomery, I don't care about. McCaffrey and Genty. Okay, McCaffrey and Genty. Let's look at it, feel it out here a little bit. Neighbors, DJ Moore, and Loveland. Also a solid roster build there. The question becomes McCaffrey and his injury. How bad is Genty? How bad is Neighbors? But should these guys all be healthy? Week 4 on, again, let's get through the NFL real preseason. Lawrence under center, that's a pretty good team. You got Jonathan Taylor, Omar and Hampton. I like the sound of that, but it's followed up by Mbuka and Williamson, Jameson Williamson, and then Kyron Williams. Not having it. Swift and Basil Tootin, I don't know. They do have Jefferson and Nico Collins and T. Higgins. That's I'm not concerned with that. Cook and H.N., okay. McMillan and Odunze and Javonte Williams to go with them. Yeah, I'm not feeling that. Jacobs and Scadaboo, forget it. Scadaboo is your number 2 running back. Have fun. They do have Lamb, London, and Evans as wide receivers. Evans is old. London's got no quarterback. And then it brings us to us. Chase Brown, Barkley, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, Christian Watson with Dart. And then our bench is, like I said, Price, Harvey, DK Metcalf, Jonah Coleman, Stribling, and then 2 quarterbacks in Goff and Love. So I'm not as happy with my team here. I do think that there are some better teams on the front end. However, for having the number 12 pick, I am easily happier with my team than I am really with anything on the second half of this. I guess the team that is in, it looks like position 7, is the first team where I look and I go, okay, that team might be comparable, if not as good. So again, the point of our exercise here was simply to go through the first and the last spot of a draft and see what different player populations you're dealing with as you move along, depending on how you draft, right? And we could have done this exercise like 8-10 million times, but you don't need to. When you are getting ready for your mock draft, obviously use the position that you know that you are. But if you haven't got it and you get the position, let's say the 1 or 2 hours before the draft, which is an ESPN staple, or however your operator uses it, just make sure that if you don't know it, put yourself all across the board and see what happens. Experiment. It takes no time at all. We did 2 drafts here in an hour, and that was me boring you to death. So you could do it without talking in like 15 minutes straight. Again, if you use Fantasy Pros and you register, you get 5 a day, and then you got to move on to something else. Or, like we mentioned yesterday, try your hand at best ball. Got a couple of bucks, throw it in the best ball, money on the line. It's the poker reference, right? You play with play money and poker. What does it really matter? You play with real money, whole different story. Now, that's not really a great reference anyway, because depending on who sits down at the table with you, their wallet just might be bigger than yours. But a little bit of money never hurts to get a better product on the backside of the of your experiment. So, with that, we'll call it a day, right? As I'm just rambling here, which if you start listening to the show, you'll realize happens almost routinely, is that I just run out of stuff to say, and the ending of the show is just a tough thing to experience. But I got you here. I'm just going to punch out. Thanks for listening. Try to get another show in, if not today, definitely on Thursday with my brother, where we'll probably do rankings of our wide receivers and our wide receivers / tight ends and our running backs. So until then, thanks for listening. Peace.